You're watching Daybreak on Arise News, and it's time for the paper review as promised. Dr. Constance Akoko joins me now in the studios. For a review of the papers this Monday morning. Good to see you, bright and yellow.
I know. Good to see you at this one. Good morning.
Morning.
How was your weekend?
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. We had lots of weddings in the Arise News family. Congratulations to all
everyone.
the colleagues who got married over the weekend. We also got awards for some anchors on the morning show. Congratulations. I think that will be in our subsequent bulletins today to tell our viewers what happened, you know, and who got the award. But it was celebratory for Arise News during the weekend.
Yes. Okay, great. Let's look at what's making the headlines today. Yes. We'll begin with this day newspaper. Lagos senior lawyers hail Supreme Court judgment on National Lottery Act. Zenith Bank lights up at Josiah Diogu Street, ushering in Yuletide season. Oil marketers strike deal with Dangote for daily supply of 28 million litres of petrol. And then Senator Lindsey Graham threatens UK, France, Canada, others with US sanctions if they aid ICC to arrest Netanyahu. Then back to the oil marketer story. This will be for the next 6 months, the agreement between the oil marketers and the Dangote Refinery. They are doing this in order to cut prices down. The marketers agreed to cease all importation except if it's not available from that refinery. I mean, this looks like a win for Dangote Refinery as well as for the marketers. It ensures stability of supply, no problems there, and then control of price fluctuations as well at this one.
Indeed. I think we can gladly say all is well that ends well, given the back and forth that we have witnessed in the past months over this this particular product, and the Dangote Refinery coming on board this year, producing locally for the first time in over 2 decades. And it does look good. And I also think that we are finally close to knowing how much we're consuming daily as a country. You know, that has also been the elephant in the room as to how much do we really consume as a country. But now we are told that 28 million, liters daily for the next 6 months. So if Dangote is supplying that, then we do know that the country is able to rely on that amount thereabout. But beyond that, for me, when the story broke yesterday, it was encouraging that Dangote was also reducing price for marketers.
Yes.
That's 20 naira difference from 990 to 970. You know, and I was joking on the group to say it would be nice for Nigerians to also feel the effect of this reduction. Hopefully that market forces, in quotation, do not swallow up this difference. No matter how little, let's see the reduction reflect at the pump price. But beyond that, let me also just say that it was reassuring to hear Dangote say that they will not be sacrificing quality on the altar of cost cutting. They are reassuring that their products will remain, you know, environmentally safe and, you know, good. So that is really, this is a feel-good story for all Nigerians this morning.
I mean, it has no choice but to, you know, supply quality products. There are organizations or agencies that have the duty to make sure that that occurs in the market. You know, back to the price, it's just, you know, 20 naira difference from 990 to 970. It's infinitesimal. However, given that the cost of petrol is very expensive, any amount in reduction, you know, will do something. At the same time, we know that it will take a little while, a long time, before we have prices crashing back to what we expect, you know. So we'll be watching that market for you. There's another story on this day as well. Can we pull up this day? Again, it talks about the ICC and Senator Lindsey Graham. He's threatening the UK, France, Canada, and others of sanctions if they aid ICC to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. We recall that the Israeli Prime Minister, an arrest warrant was issued against him by the International Criminal Court. And the UK says he risks being arrested if he steps foot into the country. And so Lindsey Graham is saying, no, that's not going to happen. We will sanction you. I think it has come a full circle when it relates to international criminal justice and countries and international law as a whole. What you see is that there are indications that it's hypocritical. You know, the ICC seems to be meant for lower income countries or poor countries and weak countries. You know, over 30 people that have been indicted by the ICC are from African countries, and a lot of times they are hailed. Now it has to do with not a poor country and a weak country, and you know, he's saying that there will be sanctions against them. So I think the whole international law has come crashing down at this one, hasn't it?
And it is interesting how international politics and geopolitics is playing out, even with this particular case. The U.S., as we recall, is not a party to the Rome.
It is not
the Rome Treaty or the Rome Statute of the ICC. And so you hear the U.S. making such definite statements to say you're going to even sanction those who are party to the statute if they do effect this arrest warrant. But again, it calls to question the hypocritical nature which you called out. We recall that the ICC has also issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin of Russia.
Yes.
He has traveled to Mongolia so far. Mongolia is a party to the Rome Statute. It did not arrest Vladimir Putin. So we do not really, I mean, fingers crossed, but a lot of people don't expect that this arrest warrant will be implemented by majority of the 124 countries that are party to this statute. This is not the first comment we are hearing from the U.S. Last week, we also heard from the incoming administration that there will be sanctions on the ICC, particularly. But here we are hearing that there will be sanctions on even other, these are allied countries to the U.S. It's interesting to see UK on that list, France and Canada, who have spoken vehemently about the independence of the ICC. But is the ICC really independent when they cannot effect this arrest? We wait to see how all of this will play out
exactly
in the coming days.
To the Daily Independent, experts warn of businesses in Nigeria collecting payment in dollars. That's a big issue. They ask FG to enforce CBN Act that criminalizes refusal of Naira. Whereas Naira is the sole legal tender in Nigeria, the dollarization of the economy is taking place. According to this article, the CBN provisions of Section 20, subsection 1 implies that Naira is the sole means of payment, including for airfares. It also criminalizes the refusal of the currency by any entity. Some foreign airlines and other organizations in Nigeria are violating this law. How can foreign entities or even companies located within Nigeria violate such a law and get away with it? It simply means that the country is unable to enforce its own laws at this one.
Well put, and that is so apt. Beyond Section 20, subsection 1 of the 2007 CBN Act, if you go further to subsection 5 of that same act, it does enforce the government, allows the government to enforce sanctions on individuals and organizations, you know, that go contrary to the law. But we haven't seen that. It's not just the airlines. It's not the first time we are hearing this come to light. We have schools in Nigeria that ask for payments in foreign currencies. The airlines will give also all manner of excuses as to how they operate internationally, because even the petrol they use, the aviation fuel, is bought in foreign currency, maintenance payment, you know, abroad.
But that's different.
But that's different. So it doesn't make any sense that in Nigeria you'll be dollarizing your payment services. I recall when I first went to South Africa many years ago, and you know, traveling, of course, I thought the international currency to travel with to any country, because as I had done to other countries, was the dollar. And I was expecting to spend the dollar in a South African shop, and I was given a look like, where did you come from? Are you from Mars? They do not spend dollars in South Africa.
Right.
You have to go to the exchange, bureau, the Bureau of Exchange to spend. You have to spend local currency in South Africa. That is how it is done. And in so many other countries I have been to that I see, they do not accept the dollarization of their economy. You have to spend in local currencies. But here, the case is different.
Even apartments, some apartments in Nigeria.
In Abuja here.
Yeah, to pay in dollars.
Exactly.
And that puts so much pressure on your currency, because that is why people would have Naira and change it to dollars. And so we are complaining about how, the economy is volatile, and you have the currency volatility volatility. That's part of the problem.
But these are the issues.
Exactly. So, you know, the government will now have to do something about it. You know,
and we have to ask, you know, the finance minister, this will be a good time to update us on the new policy, the 90-day policy, which is in effect already, where he's asking and urging Nigerians to return their dollars that are not in the banks.
Yes.
How far with that? You know, because when you have to pay for your tickets, you have to pay for apartments, you have to pay for schools in dollars, and the banks will tell you they don't have the dollars. Your only result to keeping the dollars at home.
Exactly.
So these are the issues that we need to deal with.
Okay, New Telegraph, Tinubu, Buhari, Jonathan, others accidental leaders, according to Kuka. We also have why NJC should review judges' recruitment process. According to the Catholic Archbishop of Sokoto Diocese, Bishop Matthew Kuka, he said leaders need to be adequately prepared given the demands of office. However, this has not been the case with some of our presidents. The leadership crisis in Nigeria is therefore caused by lack of knowledge, capacity, and the preparation. I mean, this is a true diagnosis of the leadership cycle or the leadership problem in Nigeria. Those who have wanted the presidency the most did not get it. And those who did not plan for it just, you know, had it slammed on their laps and they took on it. So Kuka says it is time to change this. I mean, this is a big issue. Whether you're talking about, you know, former President Goodluck Jonathan, who was chosen or picked as a deputy governor in Bayelsa State, and, you know, as Providence will have it, he became president by accident after Umaru Musa Yar'Adua died. You're talking about former President Olusegun Obasanjo was in prison and it brought him out.
From prison to president.
Exactly. And then who else?
He mentioned Shoneko and Abacha,
but
exchange.
Even President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua was a governor, you know, interested in doing other things, and then he was dragged out of there by President Obasanjo to be made president. So it does say something about why we have a leadership crisis in Nigeria. Yeah,
because it does look like from the picture Father Hassan Kuka, who is very opinionated, as we know, has painted, that, you know, these leaders have been happenstance. They didn't really prepare for it. He also talked about those who were even tired of the job, sort of getting the job, such as former President Muhammadu Buhari. You recall after 3 attempts, you know, the president had even wept on national TV saying that, you know, this is difficult and he wasn't going to try. And then, you know, 4th time lucky with coalition, he got into power. However, he made an exception for President Bola Tinubu. He says, well, he's prepared. However, we're still trying to get off the ground.
Yes.
So it's beyond even how they get to office, but how, you know, we hear them say they are hitting the ground running. Unfortunately, things happen. And that exception he made, he also, you know, made an excuse to say that he took over from someone who was tired of the job, President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yes.
And then he goes further in the same breath to say that Nigerians are impatient and that we all deserve a perfect society, but there's no perfect society anyway. He talked about the kind of democracy we practice and how, you know, we're struggling to keep it, but he says it's still better than, you know, in some other places. So bottom line, Father Kuka, he's talking about leadership preparedness, beyond you wanting to assume that position, what you do to the people and how they feel, what's the impact when you get into office. And I think that's what the story by Father Hassan Kuka is about.
There's also the point about character, competence, and capacity. You know, those 3 are key, you know, in leadership. And we haven't seen much of that over the past, you know, more than 30 years, or even during military rule. So the point then is that if you have leaders that are able to imbibe this, or that have those qualities, you need those qualities in order to run a competent and efficient economy. So a very important point that Archbishop Matthew Kuka has raised. As for Daily Sun, Nigeria downgraded to vulnerable nation in 2024 Instability Index. SBM Intelligence, a Pan-African think tank, disclosed this in its recent Africa country instability report. The study assesses political, economic, and social factors impeding stability in Africa. It also looks at key factors such as history, economy, geopolitics, and governance. I mean, this is our daily reality. We live in a country that is currently challenged on all fronts, and we are acutely aware of this. We do not need a study to know this. The question then arises, what are we doing about this? What do we need to do about it? I think that's the key then.
Indeed, and I think it's something, they say the first step to solving a problem is acknowledging that you have it. If we have acknowledged that we have this challenge, then perhaps we are on our way to solving it. But for a lot of Nigerians, that's not the reality. Our urgent reality is that we are now vulnerable. The tough decisions of the government, although important decisions to take, have exacerbated the situation on ground. We know this is also a global challenge. The president was speaking very recently in Brazil during the G20, and I think he listed the myriad of challenges that Nigeria and Africa are facing.
And it didn't look good. When I watched that video and he was talking about it, I'm like, oh my goodness. Maybe he had put it in a different way. It was like, it looked so bleak.
But I think it was also a platform to tell the reality, as President Bola Tinubu did say to the global leaders, to say, Africa is an important component of the world. These challenges are real. They are urgent.
They know already.
But perhaps when it comes from the leader of the largest black nation and the chairman of ECOWAS, maybe then it will pack a punch. But he's saying, and he reiterated to them that you cannot abandon Africa. It's a global threat. Because, Dr. Ikoko, if you look at reality, we look at the wars that have sprung up in Gaza, Israel, Hezbollah, Lebanon, and all of that, and Ukraine, Russia, a lot of the attention has shifted away from Sudan.
Right.
Sudan has the worst crisis in decades. Nobody's talking about Sudan.
DR Congo.
DR Congo.
Forever.
Nobody's talking about that. Look at Lakurawa from Niger and the rest of that now, taking host in Nigeria. Nobody's talking about that. Everybody's talking about Gaza, Hezbollah. Not that there are no important wars to talk about, but Africa has again been neglected. So those are the issues. It's unfortunate that we have moved to this status from stability to vulnerable. Hopefully we get our acts right and move out of this.
Okay, to the international headlines, Daily Graphic, we'll begin with that from Ghana. Election 2024, who takes Central Region? Apparently this region is the most sought after prize in Ghanaian elections. We also have on the front page, Ghana votes 2024. One of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you will end up being governed by your inferiors.
Where's the lie there?
Yeah, this is a quote.
Where's the lie?
This is a quote by Plato. I mean, this quote is up and it mirrors the abdication of political responsibility by the masses and by people who should know, the middle class. And that has dire consequences, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So when people refuse to participate in electoral process, which is a constitutional right given to you, which you deserve and have earned as a citizen of a country, this is what happens. You allow those who emerge, and however they emerge, to rule you for the certain number of years they're allowed to rule you. And you have no justification really to question how those leaders have emerged, because you refuse to be part of the process. You have given up and allowed some other people to decide for you. So those are the consequences of not participating in electoral processes. And Ghana has the period again.
Right.
Ghanaians have a chance again to choose who will be their leader for the next 4 years or 8 years on December 7th.
I know that's one the most important point here is that politics is key. Political system is key. You cannot do anything with every decision is tied to politics, so you have to get it right. I think when you look at Nigeria, for instance, the middle class needs to understand it, because most times they do not care. They just want to go into businesses or the private sector, which is good. At the same time, when you go to countries that have developed, their best runs their country. Their best is in their civil service. So you need your top of class in the civil service. They need to be interested. If you are not there, then do not complain.
You have to be part of it.
You just take what you say.
Indeed, you have to be a part of the decision-making process, and that begins with the election.
Right.
You are either a voter or you're a candidate. But you see, a lot of people say politics is dirty, so I'm not going to get involved. Or the results have been decided, so why should I vote? And that's how we leave ourselves to fate, to say someone is going to emerge anyways, which is wrong. It's a wrong mentality.
Let's look at cities in South Africa. Youth. SA lets us down. A recent youth survey of 16 African countries found that only 16% of South Africans feel positive about their country. 74% said the country is not going in the right direction. Other countries that were surveyed include Ivory Coast, Ethiopia, Gabon, Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, Tanzania, Zambia, Congo, Brazzaville. I mean, it's always relating to jobs, isn't it? When you have a country where a huge population of the young people are unemployed, they feel totally frustrated and helpless, whether it's in South Africa, whether it's in Nigeria. It does say that 90% of Rwandan youth think that they are doing well, and you would understand why that's the case. Right.
Yeah, South Africa particularly, there is a data that says 1 in 3 South African youths is jobless. So you can imagine the amount of youths not, in job, gainfully employed or engaged. And, the recent face-off between the South African government, the police, and the mine workers, or the collapsed mines that has been ongoing for months now, just, really hits home this point. This is a deserted mine that has now collapsed with about 4,000 to 400,000 people said to be under that mine. You wonder why people will risk their lives to go under the mines to make a living. It's because of stories like this.
Yes, definitely.
Youths that feel that they have been left, they have been abandoned by the government.
And they have no choice.
And they have no choice.
Yes, exactly. The Times, Trump to ask transgender troops from U.S. Forces on day 1. Sources say Donald Trump is preparing an executive order that will declare transgender people unfit to serve in the military. There are about 15,000 transgender personnel in the U.S. Forces. They will be medically discharged, and some of them are in senior positions. I mean, this move is not surprising at all. President Trump will pander to his conservative political base. We saw this coming. But it's not going to end with transgender people. Essentially, the culture wars in America during his tenure will be, fierce.
I don't think it's going to be as smooth as the Republicans or Donald Trump is thinking because exactly, because people are going to test the laws. People are going to go to court to test their rights to choose whatever sex they want to be, and this would be an interesting watch to see if this is going to happen in day 1. We've also heard Trump say we end the wars from day 1 when he gets to power. He will end the wars ongoing around the world in 1 day. So let's see how he does this on the first day and how the people react.
Finally, to iNewspaper, cabinet split over assisted dying as vote rout deepens. 14 ministers are for it, while 8 ministers are against it. And finally, also, does gentle parenting actually work? According to reports, gentle parenting can be effective for some children, but not for those kids who are aggressive. A study found that 40% of gentle parents, experience burnout and self-doubt. I mean, it can be easy. I remember a show in the United Kingdom called Super Nanny. Super Nanny Joe that goes from families to families trying to help parents who are totally frustrated with screaming kids, kicking kids, slapping kids, it's a lot. Well,
you're going to definitely have a burnout there.
Exactly.
But there's something we say, spare the rod and spoil the child. Some people say, oh, that's aggressive, gentle parenting, but hey, there are the downsides to it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think that's the time we have in Daybreak.
Yes.
It's been fun doing this with you.
I know.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely Monday.
You too.
And that's all the time we have on Daybreak this Monday morning. Thank you so much for watching. Up next is the morning show live from our Lagos studios, Nigeria's commercial capital. I am Adesua Omoruwan. Good morning.